Vicky, Marie, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. And I think the world's got a bit crazier right now. Very sad news coming out, isn't it, about Pope Francis dying. Even for someone like me who's not really a religious person, don't like sort of the Vatican and the idea of all that wealth, where people all over the world sort of haven't got things. But anyway, Pope Francis, he's died. It's been announced this morning. So after a long illness, and there were many times, weren't there, over the last couple of weeks or so, or longer, that it was sort of expected, really, almost, that he would die when he was admitted to hospital, and he had to be given breathing help, assisted with his breathing. There were lots of, touch and go moments. And then he was discharged, wasn't he, from hospital, and it felt like maybe he was getting better. I mean, it's important to remember that Pope Francis, he was an old man, and he's lived a long life. He's lived sort of long life, well lived, those kind of lives that people are lucky enough to have a life like Pope Francis had. And he dedicated himself to God and to sort of service. And I must say, as far as popes go, he was what you would call a progressive pope. I think, even, as I say, for an old cynic like me, I think Pope Francis, I can actually feel myself getting emotional, even me. God knows how sort of committed Catholics all over the world. This will be a massive thing that will register all over the world. There'll be a lot of people very sad to see Pope Francis die. Because, as I say, as popes go, he was progressive. He spoke out against sort of being, he spoke out for immigrants. He spoke out for anybody who was in a vulnerable position. He spoke out for the gay community, the LB, whatever community. He spoke out, for everyone, really. He was really the most progressive pope, I think, that we've ever had, that the world has ever had. So it's especially sad for that reason, because he was a voice, that in this sort of almost fascist environment, it feels like sometimes we're living in, with the sort of extreme right wing, there's so much hate, towards vulnerable members of society. He was like a voice, that like a calming voice and a compassionate voice. So, I do think he will be really missed. I mean, if even I'm feeling emotional about this, God knows how people who, really sort of, committed Catholics, etc., there'd be a real sense of loss. See Pope Francis die. I just want to check. I'm not sure exactly how old he is. Let's have a look. 88. Now, the other thing about Pope Francis, he was the first Latin American pope. He didn't come up as most popes did through the Vatican. I don't know how you get to become a pope. It's like what the criteria is. I have absolutely no idea. But all I know is that he was different from any pope that had ever been before. As I say, first Latin American pope is from Argentina. He did not come up, as I say, through the ranks of the Vatican. So he brought a different kind of way of looking at things, I suppose, to the Vatican. Anyway, he made a brief appearance on Sunday at the Mass in St. Peter's Square. I'm going to see if I can find a video of that, because apparently he was very ill. It's sort of, I don't mean this sound in a bad way, but it's almost a relief, if you like, that he's died, because he's been so very ill. And I did think, at the time when he was in hospital, it was almost felt like, gosh, is it just this time to go? So, there does come a time, it's all about quality of life, etc. And obviously, being the Pope, he will have got the very best treatment, won't he, that's available. While he was in hospital, he will have had the most, the best treatment that anyone could have. And it makes you wonder, not only for them trying to keep him alive until Easter, but him maybe wanting to see Easter, because Easter is such a massive celebration, isn't it, for Catholics? This will resonate through Spain. As you know, I'm in Spain. We've just had the Easter celebrations have more or less finished. They don't really, today, Easter Monday, is a holiday, but there's not really, I don't think there'll be any parades today or anything like that. So it is over. And was he just determined, to stay on this sort of planet until then, until Easter Sunday was over and the resurrection of Christ, etc. And then maybe he just felt that he'd done all he could then. He'd got, that was his last Easter. And then maybe he just relaxed and he went quietly. Let's see if I can find anything showing him. Because he made a brief appearance, apparently, at Easter Sunday Mass in St. Peter's Square. Oh, yeah. Oh, gosh, he looks very poorly. Let's just have a look at this video. Bless him. So, of course, he'd had this severe bout of pneumonia. And he had, oh, my God, he had a short meeting with J.D. Vance. Well, if that didn't finish off, anything would. So not only Charlie Boy went over there with Shamila, didn't they? They went and had a brief chat with him. And then he's had a short meeting with US Vice President Vance on Sunday. Good God, that'd make anyone give up hope. So he marked Easter Sunday by blessing thousands of people. Oh, so this is his last appearance. Oh, let me share it, sorry. Oh.
Cari fratelli e sorelle, buona Pasqua.
Oh.
Benedicat vos, omnipotent Deus.
Look, he does sound very ill, doesn't it? Apparently he was advised to rest for 2 months. I think he's just hung on, hasn't he? Because he wanted to, be there for Easter. See, this is the other thing I don't like about the Vatican. All these men, boys, etc. I'm not happy with this Vatican thing. Pope Francis, as I say, is probably the best pope I can ever remember for a cynical person like me. I've got a lot of respect for him. I think he came over as being a very sweet man. But yeah, I don't like all this. I just can't like it. But the other thing that's important to remember about Pope Francis, though, apparently the church sort of grew for 10% while he's been Pope, at a time where, Catholicism, the Catholic Church, due to scandals about priests and this, that, and the other, it's took it's not got the best reputation, has it, at the moment? So he did well to grow it by 10%. Apparently there are more young people turning to Christianity now, and I think they need to. A lot of people complain about the rise of Islam, etc. Well, then you have to start sort of doing something about it. Then if you're not happy with it, you think it's swamping Christianity or Catholicism or whatever, you know, start going to church and start, you know, taking part, an active part. That's what people who support Islam, they're very committed to their church, to the, you know, to what they believe in. Anyway, let's see, carry on.
Pater, et Filius, et Spiritus
Oh.
Sancti. Amen.
Gosh. Oh. Let's just watch that again, actually. Yeah. I don't like all this.
Cari fratelli e sorelle, buona Pasqua. Benedicat vos, omnipotens Deus, Pater, et Filius, et Spiritus Sancti. Amen.
Gosh, a lot of people. So, gosh. Oh, did you not see the video? Hi, Bluebell. Hi, Silver. Can you see? Did you see it in the end or not? I can play it again. Let's play it again. Yeah, you can see it now. Definitely you can see it now.
Cari fratelli e sorelle, buona Pasqua. Benedicat vos, omnipotens Deus, Pater, et Filius, et Spiritus Sancti. Amen.
Okay, so we're going to go over to Sky News now. Give the headline.
When you see this immense, great building at the heart of Rome, the Vatican City, and there St. Peter's, marking the end of another papacy. There is so much history of that place and its influence around the world. And during the last 12 plus years, Pope Francis has been that focus, that influence, and his extraordinary determination to change the Roman Catholic Church with the same desire to maintain.
So people will be congregating now, won't they, in Vatican Square? You can see as people are getting the news. People will be congregating there. Or, you know, people like to come together, don't they, at times like this? And anyway, I'm going to light a candle for Pope Francis. I never thought I would be lighting a candle for the Pope. I must admit, I never thought I'd be lighting a candle for the Pope, but here we go. Well, I hope he's, you know, he's met his maker and his God. He's, you know, obviously he's a committed sort of religious man, the Pope. He'd risen to the Pope. As I say, I don't know how you get to become a Pope. What will have to happen now is they'll be choosing a new Pope. They go behind closed doors, don't they? And isn't there a film out at the moment, Conclave, about the choosing of the Pope? I mean, it couldn't be a more appropriate time, could it, really? Yeah, I mean, who decides who to be Pope? You know, and then they have it like a vote, don't they? And then the smoke comes from the chimney or something. Let's have a look. I'm not sure of the exact details. Well, it's been a little while since a Pope's been chosen. So the next Pope is chosen by the College of Cardinals through a process called a conclave. Only cardinals under 80 years old. Only the young ones, only cardinals under 80 years old are eligible to vote in a conclave, and they are known as cardinal electors. The process involves a series of meeting and votes, ultimately requiring a 2/3 majority to elect a new pope. So it's a secret gathering that the conclave is a secret gathering that takes place at the Vatican, with the cardinals residing in the Domus Sanctae Marthae, and it involves multiple rounds of voting, with a 2/3 majority required to elect the new pope. And if no candidate reaches the 2/3 majority after multiple rounds, the requirement may drop to a simple majority. So apparently, after a pope dies or resigns, the dean of the College of Cardinals announces the vacancy and calls for a conclave. Cardinals are summoned to Rome and they gather at the Vatican, and they hold these congregations to discuss the needs and challenges to face in the church and to prepare for the election. Oh my God, I hope we don't get a fascist one. Please, 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 God, please, please. And Pope Francis, use your influence there in heaven. We do not want a fascist Pope. No, don't want to take back all the Pope Francis's good work, the progress that is made. And he's always speaking up for vulnerable people. Regardless, he really has been a trailblazer Pope. And I just hope that is continued with his successor. So voting takes place in the Sistine Chapel, where each cardinal writes the name of their chosen candidate on a ballot, and the votes are collected and tallied, and the process continues until a new pope is elected. And once a new pope is elected, the senior cardinal deacon announces the news to the world from the balcony of St. Peter's Basilica, and the new pope then gives his blessing to the city of Rome and the world. Let's just listen a bit more to Sky News.
Who had gathered, and that leadership in itself was a perfect way in which he was a contribution to the papacy, this institution that has lasted for over 1,000, nearly 2,000 more years. It is an incredible institution that has been going on since the year zero, and he has played his part, but he has been controversial. But the controversial elements of his leadership are going to become part of what will be reflected on as the church now, the Roman Catholic Church, chooses its next pope. And there will be a period of pause now. There will be the funeral of the Pope, a much more simple funeral than those that we witnessed for John Paul II. But what we will see is the gathering of the cardinals here in Rome, and they need to vote now on who they want to carry on this immense responsibility, where whoever it is will be criticized in one way or another, just as Pope Francis was. But he is now released from that, and we wish him well in his journey, as he will believe it, to heaven.
And I wonder, just before we pause here, Alistair, the thoughts about his funeral. What we know so far is that he does want a simple funeral. Typically, a Pope Francis move there.
Well, I think simple is an interesting word. I think that it is not possible for
Exactly.
a pope to have.
Yeah, I do agree with what he's just said. You know, I know that Pope Francis, he would have wanted a simple funeral. He obviously has asked for that, but it's pretty much impossible, isn't it? It's like saying the Queen could have a simple funeral, or, you know, at the end of the day, he is, you know, just such a massive public figure. You know, you can't, everybody knows who the Pope is, whether you even follow religion or follow the Catholic religion or not. You know, it's impossible to have a completely simple funeral, but it'll be as simple as he's asked for it, I suppose. You know, his wishes will have to be taken into consideration. Now, it's funny because I was just sort of laughing at what old hippie said, and, you know, J.D. Vance, he is a Catholic, isn't he? I think he's a committed Catholic. I'm not sure. Is J.D. Vance a Catholic? I don't know, but just makes you wonder what conversation they had. You know, what conversation can J.D. Vance have with the Pope, a progressive Pope like this, who's asking for calm against immigrants and things like that? You know, asking, he's against all this anti-immigration. Because let's not forget, anti-immigration is one thing, you know, the way it's being operated at the moment in America and is a complete extreme. So, you know, yeah, Trump's hardline Catholic deputy. So he is a Catholic. This is what I just think, how can his views sort of almost, how can his views even fit in with, you know, the Christianity? And anyway, never mind. What can we, you know, what can we say? Apparently he used to be an atheist, but he is now a Catholic of a very specific type, it says it. What's that? What specific type? He's a Catholic. Let's have a look at this. So according to this magazine, I'm only, you know, this is a newspaper or a magazine, so it's a view. It's not my view. It's just what they're saying. So in 2021, when J.D. Vance was asked at a conference why he'd converted to Catholicism just 2 years earlier, he had a fairly simple answer. I really liked that the Catholic Church was just really old, he says. A bit like Donald Trump, eh? Anyway, so I don't know what that means, but anyway, so he's embraced the church with a complex social doctrine built off the work of ancient philosophers. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about J.D. Vance. I just, you know, there's sometimes when I've looked at his upbringing and, you know, that hillbilly elegy, and I think, you know, at least he's lived in the real world. You know, he's lived in the real world. He's been poor, you know, so his experience, he's not come up through privilege. Don't know how he's got where he is, really. How has he got there? I need to look more into it. Yeah. So when he was a young man, he identified for a while as an atheist. I think a lot of young people go through a phase where they don't believe in God. I personally think you start to believe in it more as you get older. Though, you know, some people might say they believe in God less as they get older. I don't know. But yeah. So he officially converted to Catholicism in 2019. Anyway, met the Pope on Friday, apparently. God, that poor guy, there he was on his deathbed. Not only he had to put up with Charlie Boy and Shamilla, then he had to meet J.D. Vance, bless him. God, you know, just the thought of it having to, I mean, it'd be difficult when you're on your, you know, so ill as that, just having a conversation with anybody. I mean, I think there were private meetings, so at least the world's eyes weren't on him. But, you know, it's he went right to the end, because then, you know, he gave that speech that we just watched on Easter Sunday, which is probably the biggest, you know, celebration, isn't it? When Christ was resurrected, that's got to be the biggest day, if you like, in the Catholic sort of tradition. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a Catholic, so I don't know. All I know is here in Spain, Easter is such a massive thing. And of course, they don't. They celebrate the 6th of January, the Three Kings, when the kings went to give gifts to Jesus. They celebrate that more than the 25th of December, which is the birth of Jesus Christ, isn't it? Which mainly in Britain we celebrate the 25th of December. Here in Spain and in many other countries, they celebrate more the 6th of January, the Epiphany, when the kings actually went to take their presents. But then I think Easter, at the end of the day, Easter is celebrated by anyone who's a Christian, not only Catholics, but of course with Spain being a probably 95% Catholic country, it's just massive. I can't even tell you how massive, how much preparation goes into all the celebrations, the parades, everything, even in little villages, let alone in big cities. And, you know, even in my little village, it's a massive thing that everybody, you know, goes along and participates in. Not me, because I'm a bit bar humbug, those sort of things. I just don't like all those people around and everything. And, you know, they're nice to watch, the parades, but, you know, they are the same every year. Once you've seen one, you've seen all of them. You know, we have the this Palm Sunday. Then there's, I think the next one will be Jesus actually taking the cross, isn't it? Having to carry his own cross. Then the crucifixion. And then, of course, Easter Sunday, which is the resurrection of Christ. But yes, ACW, may he rest in peace and rise in glory. And he was a wonderful man, and I agree. And as I say, even me, who's, you know, a little bit cynical about these sort of things, as far as popes go, I did like Pope Francis. I did like the things, you know, you thought he was changing things. He always, you know, I just don't, my only thing with popes in general is the Vatican and all the riches and all the hangers on, and, you know, just looking at that scene then with all those cardinals and, you know, and the abuse that's gone on in the Catholic Church and things. That's my thing. As far as Pope Francis is concerned, seemed to me like a lovely man who had a lot of nice things to say. He was a calming influence. He was he was also tolerant of other people's religions. He's the first pope ever to go to Iran, you know, and speak. You know, he embraced people's choices, you know, people's freedom of choice to choose their faiths. You know, it wasn't like, well, if you don't, you know, if you don't agree with me, then you're going to hell. I can't be doing with these exclusive religions. You know, it's like, I'm right. You know, you've got to believe in me, believe in my God. Otherwise, you're not going to heaven. I don't agree with that at all. Everyone has a right to choose their faiths. And nobody has a right to tell somebody else they're not going to heaven or they're going to hell or whatever, unless they've done something terrible. I'm not talking about murderers and things like that. I'm talking about just normal people who have the right to choose who or what, if anyone or anything, they sort of they believe in, and also have a right to choose their sexuality and have a right. Well, you know, you don't actually choose your sexuality. You know, if somebody is born gay, they're gay and that's it. I don't think it's a choice, you know, not like Mrs. Thatcher, who said it was a mental illness. You know, it's not a choice. I think if people could choose, you know, freely, they would choose whatever sort of didn't cause them so much sort of hassle. No, but especially sort of years gone by, people would not choose to be gay, knowing that they were going to, you know, receive all that hate and everything. It's not a choice. It's the way people are. It's the way they are. and they should be able to freely express the way they are without feeling, that means that they can't be a Catholic or they can't be a Christian. And I think Pope Francis, he spoke for that. He did a lot for people in that aspect, and that I think is lovely. So hi Annie, bye Silver. We're all just frail human beings, like who have got our good points and our bad points. We all do good things, we do bad things. I'm not talking about people who do really bad things. That's a whole nother kettle of fish. I'm talking about ordinary people living their lives, trying their best, sometimes cocking up completely. I've cocked up more times than you can imagine. And, there's nothing I can do about it now. All I can do is be sorry about it and hopefully learn from it. There's nothing to guarantee that I won't do something wrong again. We're just human beings at the end of the day. Let's go back to Sky News. Let's have a look what they've got to say.
The world mourns the passing of Pope Francis. He inspired millions far beyond the Catholic Church with his humanity and love so pure for the less fortunate. My thoughts are with all who feel this profound loss. May they find solace in the idea that Pope Francis and his legacy will continue to guide us forward, just more peaceful and a compassionate world. French President Emmanuel Macron has written this: from Buenos Aires to Rome, Pope Francis wanted the church to bring joy and hope to the poorest. May it unite people with each other and with nature. May this hope continually revive beyond him. And my wife and I send our thoughts to Catholics and to the grieving world. One more tribute here. This is from US Vice President J.D. Vance, who met the Pope just yesterday, also shared a tribute on X. I just learned of the passing of Pope Francis. My heart goes out to the millions of Christians all over the world who loved him. I was happy to see him yesterday, though he was obviously very ill, he goes on to say. But I will always remember him for the below homily he gave in the very early days of COVID. It was really quite beautiful. May God rest his soul. So just some of the tributes from across the world there of the passing of Pope Francis, who has died at the age of 88. And let's go live now to Hannah Brockhouse, senior Rome correspondent at EWTN News, a religious channel. She joins us now from Rome. Hannah, just your thoughts today. Morning.
Good morning. Yes, of course, Catholics around the world are mourning now the loss of our leader. It's a sad day for us in Rome, but also can be a happy day to know that he spent his final hours yesterday on one of the most important days of the entire year for Catholics. And he spent it even with people, even in his frailty, even in his illness. He wanted to be with the people that were there in St. Peter's Square and made that huge effort, as we saw, to go around in the...
Yeah, I think he's definitely hung on, hasn't he, until Easter Sunday, because it's such an important day, isn't it, for Catholics, so he's hung on. So God bless him, Godspeed. I mean, I would imagine, I didn't know him. I don't know him as a person. I don't know, the reality of his life, or, he came over as a good person. And I would imagine, he's going upwards, not downwards, I would imagine. Hi, M. Paul. So, yeah, all we can do is pray for him, Godspeed. As I say, he had a long life, a good life, and he contributed. He's left a positive legacy. Not all popes leave positive legacies. I mean, if you look into the history of the papacy, look at the Borgias and people, the Pope, being the Pope has not always been meaning that somebody is a good person. But I do genuinely believe in my heart that Pope Francis was a good person. And I think he'd be sadly missed for that. I mean, at the end of the day, he's 88 years old. as I say, had a long life, well lived. He contributed positively to the world, and you know, that's all you can hope for in life, isn't it? Contribute something positive, and he contributed massively positively, you know, and he made a lot of people's lives easier in the sense of, you know, his positive comments, allowing people to be what they wanted to be or what they were, like we were just talking about. You know, I know a lot of people, gay people, who were, you know, thing is, being gay, you're always conflicted with your religion, if you like. If your religion is turned around and saying, no, being gay is a bad thing, then, you know, it's difficult. And Pope Francis spoke up for that, you know, and that'll have made a lot of people feel easier, you know, with their being able to reconcile their belief in God, belief in Catholicism, you know, with their sexuality, etc. You know, to me, the Pope is there to make people's lives better, not to make them worse. We've had popes, you know, who've turned around and said, oh, no, you can't take birth control, for example, in Africa, when there's like a raging AIDS epidemic and too many children being born to famine, etc. And then you've had popes saying to them, no, you can't take birth control and things like that. Well, what are they supposed to do then? You know, you've got to live in the real world as well. Yeah, I think Pope Francis did live in the real world, and I think he was kind, and I do think he'll be sorely missed. And I just hope we don't go, whoever the new Pope is. I mean, who are the candidates? Let's have a look. Who are the likely people? See, so it's going to be a cardinal. So, of course, been talking about this for a while because of his health, because he's been so poorly. They had already, you know, all the media, etc., has already been talking about who might replace him. Also, his age, of course. You know, so people have been talking about who might succeed him even before he died. Let's see. Let's have a look at these candidates. Of course, they're all very elderly, I would imagine. So we've got Cardinal Pietro Parolin. He's the highest ranking cardinal in the electing conclave. Now, I've got to say, this is the other thing, highest ranking, all that in men of God or women of God. I don't like all that. And of course, these are all men. You're not going to have a female pope, are you? Not in a million years is that ever going to happen. So apparently this guy he's not left or right politically. He's a moderate figure. Let's hope for a moderate figure, hey? Then we've got Cardinal Luis Peter Erdo. I just don't like the look of him straight away. There you go. You know, I make instant judgments on people. Don't like the look of him. But anyway, he's a devout Marian, meaning he devotes his practices to Mary, the mother of Jesus. Don't know why, I just don't like the look of this guy. He's 72 years old, Hungarian, conservative voice within the church, having opposed the practice of divorced or remarried Catholics receiving Holy Communion due to his belief in the insolubility of marriage. He has also compared the act of taking in refugees to human trafficking. Okay, right, don't think we want him. Who's this guy? So we've got Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle. I mean, what are all these robes and everything? This is what I just don't like. Look at that. Come on. Looks like he's going to do a flamenco dance. Anyway, maybe he is because he's shared his support to gay people. So, you know, the trouble is that the people in the church, there's probably loads of these cardinals and things that are gay, but they're never going to be openly gay, are they? Anyway, he's a little bit younger. He's 67. He has typically shown more left-leaning politics, similar to Pope Francis. Okay, let's have him. Let's have him. He criticised the church's attitude and language towards gay people, unwed mothers, and divorced or remarried Catholics. He sounds good. So he said in 2015, the harsh words that were used in the past to refer to gays and divorced and separated people, unwed mothers, etc. In the past, they were quite severe. Many people who belonged to these groups were branded, and that led to their isolation from wider society. So, okay, yeah, we'll have him, even though I don't really like all this. I'm not sure what the dress is about, but yeah, he looks nice. Then we've got Cardinal Matteo Zuppi. He's a favourite of Pope Francis. Right, so if he's a favourite of Pope Francis, he's got to be nice, hasn't he? Because Pope Francis was nice. And he's been sent on a number of global trips. He went on a peace mission to Ukraine where he met Zelensky, but not Vladimir Putin. And he went to the United States to meet Joe Biden. Excuse me, I think I'm going to sneeze. Oi, Jesus. Prior to being a cardinal, Zuppi shared his more positive views of the LGBTQ community, and he wrote an essay in James Martin's 2018 book, Building a Bridge, that was useful for encouraging dialogue. Okay, so he looks okay. Leo Burke, don't know about this one, don't know. So he's regarded by critics as an outspoken traditionalist. Yeah, funny, just by looking at him, you can tell. I just know when I look at him, I think he's going to be a conservative. And he was made a cardinal by Pope Benedict in 2010. Oh, he has publicly clashed with Pope Francis's more liberal philosophies, particularly regarding his willingness to allow divorced and remarried couples to receive the Eucharist. And he called the church's new language around artificial contraception, civil marriages, and gay people objectionable. Do you know, how did I just even know just by looking at his face before I even read about him? I knew I wasn't going to like him. And what does he know about getting married again or being gay? Or what does he know about any of it? You know, what does he know about it? What does he know about the struggles that people have to face? So he probably thinks someone should stay with their partner, even if they're a domestic abuser or whatever, because they're married. Yeah, no, we don't want him. Oh, that's it. They're the main contenders. So we don't want him, Leo Burke, Raymond Leo Burke. No, don't want you. Don't like the look of you. You've got an evil face. I knew straight away looking at you. This guy seems quite nice. He was a favourite of Pope Francis. Again, what's all the lace about and everything? This is what I don't like. Look at all the gold in the background as well. You know what I mean? It's like all that gold, all that opulence, all that luxury. It's supposed to be the house of God. I thought it was easier for it to squeeze a camel through the eye of a needle than it was for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. Anyway, but he looks, as far as popes go, he looks all right. Seems like the more lace they've got on, the nicer they are. He's got quite a kind face. And he's a Filipino. I don't think we've ever had a Filipino pope. And then we've got this other conservative one, didn't like the look of him as soon as I looked at him as well. Just don't like him. Before I even read about him, I didn't like him. And he looks okay. Pietro Parolin. He's moderate. So there you go. And don't forget, Bluebell, I think it'll be real gold. There's so much gold in the Vatican. It's just ridiculous, isn't it, really? What with the gold in the Vatican and in Buckingham Palace and all the palaces. You think of all the palaces in the world and people sitting on opulence and then telling other people how to live their life. Poor people in Africa who've got nothing else to do but copulate, really, because they're living, you know, the most sort of miserable lives. What else have they got, really, but sex to cheer them up? but they're not even allowed to take contraception. So they end up having more and more kids, and they get poorer and poorer, and it all just gets worse and worse. Anyway, don't get me started. But yeah, Pope Francis, as far as popes go, he was a nice one, at least. So yeah, but you think all these palaces all over the world, I think I'm a sort of communist at heart, really, but communism has never worked. I know that. I studied it at university. Unfortunately, it has never worked, but it's a fabulous sort of principle, isn't it? But whenever it's been put into practice, always ends up like Animal Farm, doesn't it? The people, that start off with all the sort of these wonderful ideas for a utopian society, they end up being just as bad as the ones before, unfortunately. So it makes you wonder, is there just something in human nature? I don't know. Is there something in human nature that makes people acquisitive or want to be leaders or want to rise themselves up above other people? Because it seems to happen in nearly every society, doesn't it? There's some sort of hierarchy or whatever. But anyway, it's not that someone's got to lead. I believe in that, but I don't think they need all this opulence. They don't need all this gold. Charlie Boy didn't need a gold carriage to go to his coronation in, and he didn't need 2 gold thrones for him and Shamila to sit on. And then that following year, he's telling people in his message, Christmas message, live a simple life. Yeah, okay. So that, it just, to me, it is hypocrisy. It's wrong. And it's same with the Vatican. I'm sorry, but it is. But I will say, Pope Francis, he did have a positive message. He was a kind person, a good person. I just hope whoever replaces him, he's also a good and kind person. And we don't get one of those right-wing fascist ones in. That we get, another nice one in. So yeah, very, very sad. I was going to say poor Francis, but you can't say, oh, poor guy, because he did have a long, good life, left a positive contribution. He was so poorly over the last month or so. There were times I was thinking, just let him go, But now when I think about it now, it's probably him and his own spirit wanting to get through to Easter. And he did it. He gave his Easter message. It's a very important time, isn't it? And he managed to do it. I'm glad he managed to do it. And I just hope that the next Pope will be as good as he is, or prove to be as good as he is. I'm not sure how long he's been Pope. Let's have a look. Because he became like a caretaker Pope. Was it Pope Benedict was ill and he sort of stepped back. Let's have a look. Wikipedia is probably the best place. So he was Pope from the 13th of March 2013. So only 12 years. Now, that's not long, really, for the contributions he's made and for the way, and as I was saying, apparently the church has grown 10%. Let's just have a look at Wikipedia. Apparently the church has grown by 10%, even under all these scandals about Catholic priests and everything. So he has, managed to, you can see he's sort of, he looks sort of, he's got his cross and just his simple robes. So apparently he was inspired to join the Jesuits in 1958 when he was 22 after suffering from severe illness, and he was ordained a Catholic priest in 1969. So he was the Jesuit provincial superior, became the Archbishop of Buenos Aires in 1998, and was created a cardinal in 2001 by Pope John Paul II. I quite liked him as well. He was quite a nice person. He was the one that got shot, wasn't he, in the Pope-mobile. So he led the Argentine church during the riots in Argentina in December 2001. So when Pope Benedict resigned in 2013, a papal conclave elected Bergoglio, whoever he is, as his successor, and he chose Francis as his papal name in honor. Oh, that's him. That was his real name, Jorge Maria Bergoglio. I didn't know that. So he wasn't even called Francis. He chose Francis as his papal name in honor of Saint Francis of Assisi. And so they're so quick, Wikipedia, and updating. Throughout his public life, he was noted for his humility, emphasis on God's mercy, international visibility as Pope, concern for the poor, and commitment to interreligious dialogue. I mean, it's brilliant. He was brilliant. He was a nice man. He was a good man. And he's created a lot of positivity. I just hope it's not all upended by the next Pope. Let's hope for another one of the more liberal popes. We don't want one of those fascist ones, do we? Hi, Jean. I'm sorry, I'm going now, but thanks for being here. You'll have to go and catch up. So, yeah, sad news anyway, that Pope Francis has died after a long illness, but he's hung on. He hung on till Easter Sunday, didn't he? And now he has, given up the fight, and he's with his God now. And I bet they're having an interesting chat, don't you think? You just think, if it is all true and he's gone up there to heaven to meet his God that he believed in so strongly, what sort of things will they be talking about? Probably talk about J.D. Vance. Probably saying, what was it like meeting J.D. Vance? No, sorry, I'm only joking. I just, you've got to have a bit of humour in these situations. J.D. Vance, to me, is like a bit of an enigma. There are times when he says things and I think, oh, no, that's right. At the end of the day, with everybody, you can't agree with everything they say or disagree with everything they say. There are some things that J.D. Vance says that I have agreed with. But I don't like his attitude towards immigrants. I didn't like him calling all, Democrat voters crazy cat ladies. All that. I think he's got like this sort of, he opens his mouth before he puts his brain in gear type mentality, hasn't he? A bit like Donald Trump, really. But I do think that J.D. Vance will be president one day of America. Definitely will be. 100%. I'm 100% convinced of that. There'll come a day, because who are the the Democrats now? They seem to have just gone into disarray, don't they? They're like the equivalent of Conservative Party in Britain now. It's all sort of fell apart. So what's going to happen? Who's going to come forward as the next Democrat candidate, And of course, Donald Trump, he's not supposed to do another term anyway, because he'll have done 2 terms. But apart from that, he's too old to do another term. So at least J.D. Vance is that bit younger, need younger people. But of course, he's got these quite right-wing views, which is interesting because his wife, of course, was an immigrant. But he's an interesting character, let's say that. Okay, so that's it. I thought I'd just come on and talk about this. Well, this has stopped me from cleaning my windows. I was just about to clean my windows in the kitchen, and I thought, just check the news before. I shouldn't have done it. So, of course, all over the news, it was all about the Pope dying. So I had to come on and talk about it for a little bit. But very sad. Yeah, I'll be praying for him. As I say, even for someone like me who's a little bit cynical with these sort of things, it's a sad day. It's a sad day. But I think it's a happy day for him. You know, it's a bit of a relief for him. He'd been so poorly. I expect he was ready to go. But he hung on till Easter Sunday. And I think my thoughts as well, just going out to, well, his family, I suppose. I don't know if he's got family. Obviously, he won't have children. But also, there'll be a lot of people across the world who will be absolutely devastated by his death. You know, Catholics, people that looked upon him as someone that was, you know, helping to reform the Catholic Church, etc. There will be, you know, my thoughts are with those people as well who'd be absolutely devastated that Pope Francis has died. Yeah, I agree. And Paul, yeah, that's probably why he ended up seeing Charlie Boy and J.D. Vance. He was a diplomat, wasn't he? He spoke up against things, but he still met with the people he needed to meet with. You know, it may be, thing is, like the Queen. I don't mean the one who's pretending to be a queen now. I'm talking about the Queen, our Queen, the British Queen, who unfortunately died. But she had to die eventually because she, again, was very elderly. But it's like the end of an era with her, wasn't it? You know, you can't follow a class act like that, really. It's very difficult to follow, isn't it? I don't think Charles will ever be up to it, ever, and certainly not Shamilla. She's just, you know, just in my eyes, will never, ever be up to it. So, but it's you don't really even realise it until those people have gone, just how much influence, positive influence that they had. But anyway, okay, I'll see you really soon in the next video. God bless Pope Francis, and let's hope for another nice Pope like him and not, you know, one of those horrible ones. I'll see you really soon in the next video, and until then, may your God and Pope Francis go with you. Bye.